Alright, guys, what is going on? I'd say happy Friday, but I'm not happy. You shouldn't be happy. We should all be pissed off. I'm pissed off. This is infuriating. This is so far beyond it. I say we get it out of the way in the morning so that we can enjoy the rest of our weekend, okay? This is the Civically Minded Nationalist, episode 2. It's going on YouTube and only on YouTube. The podcast page just isn't going to work. I'm going to have to find a new one. Been doing some research, finding out where I want to go, what I want to do, things of that nature. Now, my goal is I'm starting recording this at 11:08 a.m. my time. I'm going to be done with this by 11:45 my time is what I'm going for. But we've got to talk about something here, okay? We've got to talk about how effortlessly the media can manipulate us. If you cast your mind back to episode 1, I was talking about how the media has a framework to keep the public blinded. Fabricated outrage framework, right? FOF. I said I wasn't going to call it that. I'm still not going to call it that, even though I just did. Okay. Fabricate outrage and tell us what we're outraged about. Step 2, shove it down our throats. Step 3, here's our rebuttal. We're not outraged about that. This is why we're outraged about it. Or this is what we're outraged about. It's actually going to be very, very vividly shown here. Plus, we're going to add a level of hypocrisy to the end of it. Once we're done with that, we're going to move into a story about how the racial paradigm in this country has shifted back towards sanity yet again. We're going to hit on, we clearly need common sense hammer control in this country. And we're also going to work on a couple of the bills. Again, cast your mind back to episode 1, the dam analogy with the treasure chests in there. A couple more treasure chests that we need to keep our eyes on, that we need to stay focused on, what they are, why they matter, coming up towards the end of the episode. Stick with me. This is going to be good. You guys should have some fun. I'm very angry, and I'm told that I'm entertaining when I'm angry. I think actually it comes across a lot like telling a short person they're cute when they're angry. Telling me I'm entertaining when I'm angry just makes me more angry. So this should be fun. Okay. Part the first. If somehow I am the only media exposure you've had today, you might not know that Buzzfeed released a opinion piece. I don't want to say article because it's not an article. Buzzfeed released an opinion piece very early this morning that stated 2 federal Bureau of Investigation investigators, have come out and said that Cohen has informed the government that Trump directed him to lie about the time frame behind the development of a legal project that he really didn't have anything to do with. That was a lot. And I know you're scratching your head. We're going to slow it down. BuzzFeed, which at best lies about 50% of the time, and in the World Press, their Freedom World Freedom Press rating is only 45 of 180. If you're familiar with how that works, basically, it's how often can they portray the truth without lying and without having an obvious political slant. They only scored 45 of the possible 180 points on that. Remember those numbers. 45 of 180, medium, 50% at best of reporting something without lying about it. Those guys, that BuzzFeed, stated 2 investigators from the FBI. Just to check the score here, this is the FBI that told us Hillary Clinton broke the law, but she wouldn't be held accountable because it's Hillary Clinton. This is the FBI that has destroyed or tampered with vital information, evidence in ongoing cases. This is the FBI that most recently and publicly, to the point where there was helicopter footage of it, executed a man they didn't like and then planted evidence on him that, quite frankly, has been proven to be false. Lavoy Finicum, I think was how you said his last name. I'm so sorry. I really wasn't planning on saying his name, but it came out. If I butchered it, I mean no disrespect to the dead or the family members he left behind. This is the same FBI They went through and caused all this trouble and all these situations. They've spent the last 2 years on a ghost chase, witch hunt, over someone who has repeatedly proven that he's not done anything illegal. Okay? That's the news organization. That's where they're saying they got their information from. And that information is about a man who has changed his story. I'm talking about Cohen now. A man who has changed his story more times than I can keep track of. We're on Cohen version 2.16.94, okay? I mean, I can't even keep or 2.6.9. You guys know what I mean. We can't even keep track of how many times this guy has changed his story. We can't. Every time the man opens his mouth, whole new story comes out. And he's trying to tell us that the president directed him to lie about the time frame of a deal that not only was he really not involved with, it's mostly Donald Trump Jr. here who's involved in this, and B, it was a legal deal. They're simply developing property, developing land in Teeter. Hush up, buddy. Developing land in Russia for what we assume is going to be, what would have been a hotel, whatever it was. It was for a business venture, legal business venture. And you're trying to implicate two men, be it Junior or Trump himself, whom you've been going after for 2 years and have nothing. I mean, 14 months ago, they were telling us that Junior was going to be in prison. He's fine. Nothing came of it. There was no grounds. But the media was telling us he was going to be imprisoned for his involvement in the same deal, by the way. Okay? Which, obviously, if he's free, there was no wrongdoing. There was nothing wrong going on there. Just remember that. That right there is step one for the day. Okay? That's the start of what's going on with the media fabricated outrage. Okay? And what are they telling us? They're telling us that we are supposed to be outraged and infuriated by the fact that this took place, that Trump told Cohen to lie. Okay? First off, for all the reasons we've already given, plus the reason of Cohen lies like he breathes, okay? No one cares what Cohen says anymore because, I mean, he's perjured himself, for crying out loud. The man, he's changed his story more times than we can count. The man has been caught perjuring himself. And this judicial committee just keeps on giving him a pass. That's okay, you're just confused. You're just confused. You misplaced your modifier, and that's all it was. You're fine. Everyone misplaces the modifier while they're under oath. It's okay. You're okay. It's okay. Okay? That's the guy we're talking about. Because he's playing the tune the Democrats want to hear. He's not being held accountable for the fact that he's perjuring himself repeatedly. That's where the outrage is supposed to be. Media's already cramming it down our throats. I've seen nothing but on TV, on the internet, on my phone, poor phone, brand new phone, Sonim XP8, by the way. If you haven't looked into it. Built with first responders in mind. Tough phone, good phone. Shameless plug. Maybe they'll see it, throw a little bit of money my way. Not gonna happen. All of this goes in to the second phase of that same framework. Shove it down their throats. Well, let's back up and look why we're actually outraged about this. Okay? We're going to do a wonderful little tie-in to an article that came out on the 11th from the New York Times. New York Times came out and said the FBI has admitted that upon the firing of Comey, they started directly investigating Trump to see if he was knowingly or unwittingly a asset to Russia's effort to undermine the function of our political system. Okay? Well, let's look at that statement. If we go back, we can see in that time frame, you can see the FBI's releases, the way their wording changed in these releases. There are certain words that they use when they're investigating a group, i.e. an administration, and when they're investigating a specific person in there, i.e. Trump. There are changes in the words that they're using in these press releases, in these statements, in these findings that would validate that. If you look at the time, you go, yeah, okay. Right after, in May, when he fired him in 2017, some words started changing. There's an ounce of credibility to that. Okay, well, let's look at some other factors for credibility. How about the same factors that we were just looking at as far as Buzzfeed's credibility? We'll even use the same site. The same site ranked Buzzfeed as sometimes medium. Means 50% of the time they're blowing smoke, they're lying. New York Times, high. More often than not, they are factually credible. Might be a disgusting political slant to it, might not be the whole picture, but they said words, blah, 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 and by definition, blah, blah, blah is true. Okay? So they're better than BuzzFeed about that. Let's look at their score. World Freedom, or World Press Freedom. Also, 45 of 180. That's the exact same thing they gave BuzzFeed. Still equally politically slanted. They just technically are more factually accurate than BuzzFeed. Well, what happened to this article from the New York Times? And I think the Washington Post validated it as well, by the way. They said the same thing without citing each other, so one would assume that they're both hearing the same thing. Lambasted. Dragged over the coals, ripped apart. Even Bill O'Reilly, okay? I don't like Bill O'Reilly. I never have. I don't believe the allegations against him. I just don't like the guy. He uses facts when facts support him, and then he uses emotion when emotions support him. Don't use emotion, use facts. Okay? That's how you do this. He ripped it apart as well. He went after it. He went as far as saying that this is propaganda and phony journalism and all this kind of wonderful stuff. I think that was him. Somebody was saying that about it. I know he ripped it up. He didn't like it. He was talking to Sean Hannity and just lost his mind about it. They destroyed this New York Times article for not having anything valid in it. The same media that ripped apart the New York Times article is jumping on this BuzzFeed article, documented to not be as accurate as the New York Times, and they're running with, they're picking up, they're in love, they're jumping on it like a female dog in heat. They cannot wait to shove this article through your ocular receptors. Cram it down your ear canal. You're gonna live, breathe, eat this crap because we like it. The whole time. It's ridiculous. And as infuriating as that is, that's only the first layer of our outrage about this. Second layer of the outrage is so much worse. So much worse. Nadler. Friggin' Jerry Nadler, the head of the House Judiciary Committee, tweeted this morning at 6:28 a.m. Go check his Twitter feed. Twitter feed. It's validated. It's got the blue check mark on there. Let's listen to what he has to say. Given the fact that he's, I don't know, fairly friggin' influential in this witch hunt, he's the one propagating it. He's the one allowing it to keep getting air, the oxygen flow that fuels the fire. He's the one permitting this. Let's see what he has to say about it. We know the president has engaged in a long pattern of obstruction. This is based off the firing of Comey. Sentence 1. Sentence 2. Directing a subordinate to lie to Congress is a federal crime. Sentence 3. The House Judiciary Committee's job is to get to the bottom of it, and we will do that work. Let's pick apart your line of crap, Nadler. Sentence by sentence. Sentence the first. We know the president has engaged in a long pattern of obstruction. Really? You guys went after him for firing Comey. Nothing came of that. He had every right and every reason and was well within his authority to get rid of Comey. Nothing wrong there. So that can't be what you're talking about. So either you just lied blatantly, you know nothing came of it, so either you just lied about that, or you have other information that shows that he has a long pattern of obstruction, to quote you, your own words, High Speed. We know the president has engaged in a long pattern of obstruction. Then either you're lying about other stuff, or you are withholding evidence from the American people during an active federal investigation. If you have something, put it out there. Congress has already demanded that if there is any evidence to be shown in this case, let it be shown to the American people. Our representatives have told you to tell us, and you haven't. So either you are facilitating his obstruction knowingly, which is also illegal, or you're lying. And given your position in this government, in the electoral body that you have been elected to, representative body that you have been elected to, in your position in the House Judiciary Committee, guess what? You could make an argument that you're perjuring yourself. You can make an argument that you're perjuring yourself. Without any shadow of a doubt. Someone could go before them and say, he is intentionally putting misinformation out there to sway the public. We ask that blah, 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 that he be held accountable. Okay? That's that. That's just sentence 1. Sentence the second. Sentence 2. Directing a subordinate to lie to Congress is a federal crime. Now we're going to change gears. What is he saying versus what is he not saying? Well, what he said is factually correct. If you are a member of this government and you direct a subordinate to lie to Congress during a congressional investigation, you have committed a crime. That's great. He said that. What did he not say? What he did not say was Donald Trump directed a subordinate to lie to Congress, and that is a federal crime. He's just putting out what the talking points that people want to hear. He is not validating this. He's adding no validity to the allegations in this Buzzfeed propaganda piece. Sentence 3. The House Judiciary Committee's job is to get to the bottom of it, and we will do that work. Again, let's look at what he's not saying rather than what he is saying. You can argue whether or not this is their job. I would argue that if their job is to investigate every single article that is written by the public that lacks any substantiating evidence whatsoever, then they should also have to do the work of investigating the New York Times piece that we referenced. They should also have to investigate a piece I wrote many years back for a site called 1 Million Moms for Gun Rights, in which I pointed out that Obama had gone through everything he needed to do to be able to execute Americans without right to due process. By putting key players in positions, by doing certain things to get the world to work the way he wanted it to, he then executed via drone strike an American citizen, terrorist, dude deserved to die, but he still had a right to due process as an American. They executed him on foreign soil with a drone strike. No one revoked his citizenship. By his standards, by Nadler's standards, they should be investigating that because I said it happened. I'm right. Be a very easy investigation. They should be investigating it. Your job is not to investigate every propaganda piece that gets put out there. Period. Let's look at what he's not saying about all of this. And this is where the real kicker is here, folks. What they're going through and saying and admitting is that they didn't know this allegation existed. You're telling me 2 federal investigators who work for the FBI went to Buzzfeed but didn't have the presence of mind to tell the House Judiciary Committee that, hey, there's something substantial here. There's something to look into here. We have evidence that actually supports Cohen's statement. If he even made the statement. I've not seen the statement. I've not seen a recording that says he said that. In all this news coverage, I don't see any video of Cohen. I think I just said Comey, actually. I apologize. I didn't mean Comey. I meant Cohen. If I did, strike that. Cohen. Of Cohen saying this. We don't even know if he said it. Much less if 2 FBI investigators have evidence that actually back up what he's saying. Nothing exists in this federal investigation on this topic. He reads it in Buzzfeed at 6:25 in the morning, and at 6:28 in the morning, he puts out a tweet saying they're going to look into it. What is that? What is that? Come on. Get out of here. You have no grounds to investigate this. There's no evidence being presented to substantiate the claim. Take a hike. This isn't what we pay you for. This is not the reason behind the existence of the House Judiciary Committee. Get out. You're telling me you don't like it when people say that this is just a ghost story and a witch hunt, yet you pull crap like this, Jerry? You're an elected representative of the people of the United States. I don't give a damn what BuzzFeed said. There's nothing else in here. If they gave me names, I would like to check out who these people are. If they gave me a video, I would like to know how that's the case. If all of that gets substantiated and it turns out that there was manipulation behind when it was done, who manipulated it? Was it Trump? Was it Trump Jr.? Was it Cohen himself? That's your job. And since there's nothing to get from A to B to C to D, you don't have anything to do, man. Shut up and get back to work. Asinine. That is step 3 of our outrage, fabricated outrage framework. That is step 3. That's what we're pissed off about. This is blatant propaganda, and you and the FBI and everybody involved in this are nothing but political tools for an agenda. And we're friggin' tired of it. That is why we're outraged. That is why we're sick of this. That is why we are done with your nonsense. Knock it off. Get back to work. How about we investigate actual collusion? How about we investigate Uranium One? How about you investigate Benghazi? Well, I mean, there's no point in that because everything's been destroyed behind that. Infuriating. And you're really, what are you talking about at the end of the day? You're telling me Trump told Cohen to lie about a 3-month period? Get out. If that were the case, if that was what was going on, Trump's argument would not have been to lie about it. It would have been, my company initiated these movements and these agreements with Russia long before a presidential campaign happened. Yes, they finalized during a presidential campaign. Don't care. Everything was in the works. Very little changed in that last 90 days. Get out of here. You're done. Absolute witch hunt nonsense. Let's move on. I'm about to have an aneurysm. I'll add caffeine to it. That'll fix it. Stand by because I'm not sure which topic I want to go to next. Let's get the social stuff out of the way real quick. Then we'll go to the bills. and why our founding fathers warned us of bills like these coming through. Okay? First and foremost, unfortunately, and I'm very sorry to report, another person has died in this hammer attack that I referenced in the Hump Day Outrage section video. Another person has died from this hammer attack. That's 2 deaths. If there were another victim, not necessarily another death, but another victim of that hammer attack, it would meet the FBI's standing criteria to be classified as a mass hammer attack. How do I know that? Because that's how they qualify mass shootings and mass stabbings, 3 or more victims. Clearly, we need to prevent tragedy before tragedy strikes, because according to the liberals, it's not tragedy if it's just 2 people, but 2 people's really close to 3 people. Could have been a mass hammer attack, folks. I'm not trying to take away your hammer. Okay? That's not what I want. I don't want to take away your hammer. I just want to make sure that every hammer purchased is being used by a contractor. You know, I mean, if you're not a contractor, you don't really need a hammer in the house. You don't need a hammer in the house if you're not a contractor. You need to call a professional who has experience using that hammer to use their hammer for you in your house. I think it's common sense. I think I think it's perfectly justifiable. I'm not violating your rights to own a hammer. That's what's going on. Now, please understand. Post disclaimer. Loss of life is tragic, and it's heartbreaking, and it's hard to deal with. Personal accountability, all those kinds of things. At the end of the day, yes, that act of violence could have been prevented if someone in that building were carrying a firearm, like they have every right under the Constitution to do. There are so many instances of a good guy with a gun either prematurely ending or avoiding altogether a situation where a bad guy with a gun or any weapon, knife, hammer, baseball bat, could have inflicted mass casualties. This isn't speculation. This is fact. This is researchable you can research it up on any .gov site. Okay? These things happen. I'm sorry for the loss of life behind the hammer. I am absolutely not going to sit here and pretend that it makes any more sense to have guns regulated than it does to have a hammer regulated. Period. I'm just not going to. Continuing on the aspects of violence in this country. Did you know that there was a 14-year-old black kid breaking into cars? The cops came up. What are you doing? He runs. As he turns around, he produces a weapon. Handgun. Cops fire. Try to initiate life-saving measures. Doesn't work. Kid dies. Black kid. Upon further investigation, they find out it's an airsoft gun. Okay? I'm telling you right now, a 1911 airsoft gun, if you put them side by side, I would have to look. And I'm talking in my face. I'm not talking about pictures. I'm talking about in my face. And I'm looking up at the ceiling, okay? Or I'm blindfolded. And you put 2 guns down in front of me, and you tell me, grab the real gun, 3, 2, 1, go. That one. That's in a non-life-threatening situation. Plain and simple. These things look realistic, especially when these dumbasses go out there and take the orange tip off the barrel, which is what every single case of a dumbass kid in America, whether it's a black kid, a Hispanic kid, a white kid, a Puerto Rican kid, Hispanic, but who cares? Every idiotic situation in this country where it turns out to be an airsoft gun, they've removed the easily identifiable features of that item. Period. I'm sure it's no different here. Cop saw a big orange tip getting waved in his face. He's probably not so keen to pull the trigger. Time will tell. Did you know it happened? I didn't know it happened. I was actually digging through the dregs of the media to find it. Yes, there's family members out there. He a good boy. He didn't do nothing. Okay? There's always the family members who say that. It doesn't matter, again, if the kid's black, white, Hispanic. Let's say Asian kids don't do it. They're too busy taking over the world with their motivation. That's what's going on, essentially. That's the situation at hand. No one is jumping at the gun, no, figuratively speaking. No one is demanding that these officers be thrown in jail for what they did. No one is rioting. Cities are not burning. That's where we're at right now. Why? Tell me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, what was happening when these exact events were taking place. All right? Ferguson is still recovering. We all know how these events were playing out not long ago. There has been a paradigm shift in the racial aspect of this country. Liberals are desperate to tell you that white people are still trying to mass murder black people in this country. White people owe reparations, or whatever they're calling them this week, to black people. All this kind of... They are still trying to keep the monster of blatant, acted out racism alive in this country, okay? I'm not talking about the conversations you have with your friends in your living room about, I don't like that aspect of black society, or why in the world do white people have put mayo on everything, or is there anything that Mexicans can do to, not be as Mexican, or, whatever conversations you're having in whatever living room. Nobody's talking about those. We're talking about actual acted out violence that is motivated by the color of someone's skin. They're trying to tell you that's still happening in this country. The reality is, as this shows, it's not. There has been a cultural paradigm shift towards race in this country over the last 2 years. Quite frankly, I think it's because black education is on the rise. Black employment is higher than it's ever been. We are no longer having a president who goes out here and tells us to hate each other. We have a president who's in there saying, why can we not accomplish... We're Americans. We're the greatest country in the world. Why can we not accomplish more? Why can we not get things to where we're going? To where we want to be going, rather. Tell me why, and I will listen. But as of right now, I'm going to take action to actually produce results in the areas where they need to be produced. Black education, black unemployment. You cannot tell me that there's not a correlation between the fact that there is more stability in the inner city community now than there has been in the last 16 years, and the fact that by and large people are able to look at this and go, wow, that was the dumbest thing he could have possibly done in that situation. What are you doing going and breaking into cars in the first place? What are you doing running from the cops? And what are you doing pulling out a toy gun that looks just like a real gun in the heat of the moment? What are you doing? Of course you're going to get shot. Sorry your kid died. He made stupid decisions. He played stupid games. He won a stupid prize. It sucks. It's horrible. But that's what happens. Those are the consequences of his actions. And for the first time in 6 to 8 years, we do not have violent riots destroying a city because of it. That is a cultural paradigm shift. I don't care what you say. Period. Fact. Check it out. All right. Let's get down to the more serious stuff that we have to go over today. We have a couple of bills. If you remember back in episode 1, I used a dam analogy. Why is the government shut down multiple layered and motivated by multiple causes? Well, they want to pool up a big puddle of bills behind this dam that they're using, this wall stall tactic that they're using. When they open those floodgates, they want certain things up at the top, and they want a whole lot to go way deep. It still gets through the dam, but it doesn't get any media coverage. Okay? Here are a couple of those bills. We're just going to go over two. I've actually got like 6 pulled up. We're just going to go over 2 real quick. We've got H.R. 359, January 9th. Enhancing Grid Security Through Public-Private Partnerships Act. Okay? I do not like the Public-Private Partnerships Act. Period. Do not like it. Either it's public or it's private. Quit blurring the lines. Why? The things that we were warned about in this book, the Anti-Federalist Papers, okay? We've got Patrick Henry, I think it was Robert, I'm sure there's authors on here. Robert Yates and Samuel Byron are the 3 predominant ones. There's a lot of speculation about other people who might have contributed to the Anti-Federalist Papers, but by and large, those 3 guys were the key of it. And their biggest fear was a conglomerate government, a federal government, that no matter what restrictions you tried to put on it, would manipulate its way and pervert its way into every facet of life. Guess what? The Public-Private Partnerships Act is an exact example, is a perfect demonstration of what they were talking about. Keep the private sector private. Keep the public sector public, and minimized, small, very, very tiny and select authority for the federal government. Then you have a separation with state government, and then you have a separation with local government. Okay? This is a bad deal across the board. This particular bill, grid security, power grid security, they're not just talking about electrical stuff. They're talking about pipelines, they're talking about refineries, they're talking about all kinds of stuff in this. The scope of this bill, in carrying out the program under subsection A, the Secretary of Energy shall take into consideration different sizes of electrical utilities and the regions that such electrical utilities serve, prioritize electrical utilities with fewer available resources due to size or region. Stop! In layman's terms, that is the government deciding where the power goes. That's not the government saying, this military base should have its own independent power grid. We've already done that. They have them. The key, absolutely essential buildings have their own backup generators in case that backup power grid fails. All of that is already covered. The government does not need more interference. They do not need their fingers digging deeper into our power grid. Period. They don't. To the extent applicable, utilize and leverage existing Department of Energy programs. Again, more government interference in something that should be a private entity. Okay? Here's a kicker. Here's why this bill genuinely matters. We talked about some stuff that's important. Here's a big one. Protection of information. Information provided to or collected by the federal government pursuant to this section, okay, in this bill, 539, 1, shall be exempt from disclosure under Section 552b3 of Title V of the United States Code, and 2, shall not be made available by any federal, state, political subdivision, or tribal authority pursuant to any federal, state, political subdivision, or tribal authority requiring public disclosure of information of records. They are literally saying, we don't have to tell you what we're doing here. The information we're harvesting, the plans we're coming up with, the contingencies we're developing, we don't have to disclose it. This bill is important because the more bills you see this wording put into, the less the citizens of the United States know what its government is doing. And that is a terrible, terrible tyranny. That is dangerous. It's an energy bill right now, which is pretty important in and out of itself. I like my lights. I don't know about you. I like my AC unit. I don't know about you. I like oil flowing across this country in pipelines. I don't know about you. This is important stuff in and out of itself. This passes, it sets a precedent that they can put this clause in any bill that they want. Probably already have been. And they're continuing to test the waters by putting it in this one. This is an important bill that we actually need to tell our representatives. HR 359, don't like a lot of the wording in there, don't like a lot of the government interference included in there, don't like the permission to harvest information and create contingencies and everything else that's mentioned in this bill without discussing it with the people of the United States. And it's all wrapped up in this nice little shroud of, oh, gee, cybersecurity towards the grid? That makes sense. We need more cybersecurity about our power grid and the way things flow. Yeah, just pass that. It's not what the bill's actually about. That's only one very small facet of it. They could still pass that bill and increase cybersecurity surrounding our power grids and our pipelines and all this kind of stuff, and including actually physical security as well. That's listed in here, without all the rest of this crap being in here. Don't like the bill, don't like how it's written, you're trying to pull a fast one on us, get it out. 359 doesn't go through. Here's one that I'm very interested to watch. To expand America's access to the ballot box, expand Americans' access to the ballot box, reduce the influence of big money in politics, and strengthen ethics rules for public servants and for other purposes. Horrible bill title. I don't know what this bill is about. Do you? Read it again. H.R. 1. Read the title again. Do I know what this bill's actually about? No. Do I have even more reason to have a red flag go up considering the fact that there's a bill going before Congress that by the title, I don't know what it's about? Yep. You know why? Because it's coming from a Democrat. It's coming from Sarbanes, I think. John Sarbanes of Maryland. Automatically, additional red flag going up. Never trust a blue politician. Only extremely rarely and selectively trust something that a red politician is putting out there. So automatically, whoop, nope, this is a Democrat putting this out. We're wrapping stuff to expand Americans' access to the ballot box. How can you tell me that that's what that's about when you're actively funneling the hundreds of thousands of illegals into this country? At best, tens of thousands, I guess. Maybe that was a little bit of an exaggeration. I don't know. I already don't believe you because of the title. Reduce the influence of big money in politics. Maybe the fact that a successful millionaire is president right now. Do you mean to reduce the influence of big money through things like the Clinton Foundation? Just curious. I wonder if the Clinton Foundation is going to be named in this. I bet not. And strengthen ethics rules for public servants. Strengthen ethics rules for public servants. We don't like what you say, so you're not allowed to say it? You disagree with us, so you're not allowed to say it? And for other purposes. Well, screw all! Just gonna write whatever I want in this bill. You know what's even more disturbing about this? This is govtrack.us. That's the website. This is the website I use to track my bills. I like it. I like VoteSmart and I like GovTrack. Guess what? GovTrack doesn't even have the text available yet. This clown hasn't even made it available yet. We really don't know what's in here because we actually can't read it yet, but he's proposed it? How's that work? 2 cases right there of things you and I and every citizen in this country need to keep track of and keep answers on. All right. I'm a little bit over. Sorry. I got revved up there. I was ready to go fight. Let's throw down. Let's punch some liberals. All right. Politicians. That's it, I think, for this weekend's podcast, guys. That's it. We're gonna call it quits right there. I'm gonna get this uploaded to YouTube, get it on the Facebook page, and we're gonna go from there. Y'all have a very safe weekend. It's Friday. It's a long weekend. Remember, if you get in trouble, the judge ain't gonna be until Tuesday. That's a long time to sit in the tank. Don't do dumb stuff. What's dumb stuff? Dumb stuff is stuff you can avoid. Be safe. Be smart. Do not drink and drive. Please, 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 if you're going to go out to the range, be safe, be smart. Don't be a statistic. Don't be a communist. Stand by to stand by for episode 3.